Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Today, January 1st, 2026. It is my pleasure to bring to you again for round two my dear friend, Dr. Rachel Sarah Brown. Dr. Brown, thank you so much for accepting my invite for round two. Can you share a little bit of a bio for people who missed part one? And then we'll talk about you quitting keto and carnivore after doing it for like 2 decades, paleo, then keto and carnivore for like a decade or so, or maybe more. And then the benefits and all the amazing things that are happening in such a short period of time since you have reintroduced carbohydrates.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me back. It's nice to be back so soon. Yeah, so just for anyone who missed it, I'm a doctor in the UK. I've been working in medicine, gosh, 22 plus years at this point in time in the field of mental health. I've always had an interest in holistic health. I've been in the low carb world for about 20 odd years. Um, because of what I thought was a food addiction, a sugar type addiction that I dealt with in my sort of teens and 20s, although I maybe have slightly different views on that now. But I've been properly ketogenic for 10 years, so fully ketogenic and really committed to it. And then carnivore for the last 6 years until probably 2 months ago now. Um, and there have been some very good reasons why I ended up deliberately coming away from those ways of eating. Let's just put it that way. So
Fantastic.
we touched on it a bit in the last episode, but for me it was primarily needing to improve my thyroid health, my leptin signaling. I had hormonal irregularities, but also all my gut health. That was a major factor, an issue for me over the
Yeah.
last 5 or so years. Yeah.
Yes, and you said you got C. difficile, right? And you did the gut testing. So we have your gut test results before and after when you did carnivore
hmm
and then when you quit and you reintroduced carbs and how quickly your microbiome came back to life. Maybe you want to share a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've done three lots of microbiome and gut testing, like really detailed testing. The first was in 2023. So I'd been carnivore since 2019. In 2022, I started developing symptoms I'd never had previously in my life, and that was mast cell activation syndrome. So I discovered on further testing that I had a mycotoxin issue, so mold toxins, and it's been quite a learning journey for me. But I did some gut testing as part of that because I suspected that my gut health wasn't in top shape, even though I wasn't necessarily symptomatic from a gut health perspective. But I now know that we need to, the gut is such a detox organ for the body. So once I was starting to put two and two together, I ultimately realized that more than likely, I suspect I ended up with a mycotoxin issue because that detox pathway hadn't been optimal or open well enough on carnivore. And so I'd accumulated a lot of toxins that were then recycling and staying in my body rather than eliminating them. And on that testing, so in 2023, I found out that I had high levels of toxins A and B from C. diff and high levels of blood in my stool sample, high levels of inflammation. So calprotectin was over 200 at that point in time. And you really want it to be, I don't know,
Less
30 or
than,
less,
yeah, definitely less than 50, ideally less than that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And there were some other markers that were elevated as well, like beta glucuronidase, which is quite an indicator of toxins in the gut. So
Right. So
anyway,
that's
very
how people
interesting.
are ending up with estrogen dominance because of the beta
Yeah,
glucuronidase, right? Enzyme that
yeah, yeah.
is getting also not in optimal shape when you're eliminating all fiber and starving all of your good probiotics. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's the other side of it. So my butyrate producing gut bacteria were pretty depleted, including some really key strains that you would want when you have optimal gut health. Ones that are involved in the mucus protective barrier So Faecalibacterium prausnitzii is one of them. Roseburia is another one. Akkermansia is another one. So they did not look good on the testing in 2023. And then I remained much to my much to my regret carnivore despite that, but added in medicinal mushrooms as a supplement. So I started taking reishi and lion's mane because I knew that they both had potential benefits for the gut microbiome. And just for anyone out there who's not aware, it's the glucose-based nutrients within the mushrooms that are beneficial. So they can be called glyconutrients, but they can absolutely help to regulate the microbiome and upregulate or help if you have significant dysbiosis. So my readings on a scale for dysbiosis were pretty high on the tests in 2023. And then I added in the medicinal mushrooms, rechecked again in 2024. And my inflammation levels had come down fairly significantly, although still weren't where I wanted them to be. But I still had C. diff in 2024, still had toxins A and B, still had blood in the sample. There was still a lot of inflammation going on, and still was low in short chain fatty acids.
Wow. And short chain fatty
Yeah,
acids are, just so people who aren't aware, it's the products that your probiotics create. And that's why we eat fiber. You eat fiber, so you
yeah.
feed the probiotic strains, and they produce short chain fatty acids like butyrate, and that helps seal the gut lining and promote digestive health. And we're told in the keto and the carnivore sphere that the ketosis state, which basically where you end up running on ketones, specifically beta hydroxybutyrate. That's the one when you're testing your blood levels of ketones, you're really testing for beta hydroxybutyrate. We're told that BHB, beta hydroxybutyrate, is the same as the butyrate that the short chain fatty acids, your probiotics are creating, and they're really not. They really have major differences, and it's not even close in terms of their effectiveness in healing the gut and in feeding your gut cells, your colonocytes, that single layer of cells that lines the intestines. So that's really important for people to know. This is why if somebody is planning to start keto or carnivore, this is carnivore month, I believe, January. Just know that you could get benefits if you need to, let's say, reverse insulin resistance really fast, if you can't work out, and that's just an easier way to do that. If you want to calm down inflammation, any food noise, all that kind of stuff, fine. Just know the moment you start, the clock starts ticking because you want to get in and get out on time. If you stay in there for an extended period of time, the way we both did, we
Hmm.
overstayed our welcome, then it's going to backfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know it's really interesting about all the thyroid effects as well, because that's related to the gut microbiome, because there's a whole gut thyroid axis, and if you're depleted in the short chain fatty acid producing gut microbes, you're not going to have optimal thyroid functioning. And I
Right.
know that that was the case for me, essentially.
Yeah. And then your thyroid, when it's not optimized, it can actually worsen insulin resistance, right? And so you're doing keto and
Yeah.
carnivore to improve insulin resistance, but the longer you stay on it, your thyroid starts to tank, which further propagates worse insulin resistance. So it's like, it just really is kind of like the last resort that I would do for some people in certain
Yeah.
situations. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know,
Okay.
I feel quite aggrieved about all of this, if I'm honest, because um I I've been through lots of educational stuff over the last lot of years for helping people implement ketogenic metabolic therapy. And I think it can be incredibly therapeutic, but the whole missing piece that I was never taught about was about the implications for thyroid health, how it's a really fine balance when you're ketogenic, how it doesn't suit everyone, and also how it may not be the ideal longer term strategy or solution. Or if somebody does have significant improvement using ketogenic therapy, be it for epilepsy or mental health problems, whatever it may be, there might need to be nuance there for time to cycle out of ketosis in a very intentional and specific way to try to support thyroid health. Because
Exactly.
thyroid health absolutely is essential for mitochondrial function at the end of the day. And this seems to be the part that just doesn't get spoken about. It hadn't been on my radar all that time, I have to admit.
Yes. Yes, it's the deeper you go into the ketosis worldview, the less you are open to all of the contradictory pieces of evidence, you know. But then at some point, when you're working with clients one on one for years on end, and a lot of our clients know that we help them with keto and carnivore, so we're seeing firsthand the long-term effects of that, and it's just undeniable. And the faster we evolve and adapt in light of new information, the faster we get results for everybody, and we optimize. So we know when to use those states, the ketosis states, and we know when it's time's up. And now it's time to really create a healthy gut and a healthy hormonal system. Cortisol is another major one. It's not just the thyroid that tanks. Baseline cortisol starts to go up. What do you think that's going to
Mhm.
lead to in terms of worsening insulin resistance? Right? In terms
Yeah.
of destroying your dopamine, cortisol burns through your dopamine and your serotonin. And so you're already flatlined with dopamine and serotonin because you need carbs and an insulin spike to convert the proteins you're eating into dopamine and into serotonin. But now you have all of this baseline cortisol elevation. And so the higher cortisol levels you have on a chronic level, the more you're going to literally destroy and minimize the synthesis of whatever dopamine serotonin you're managing to make just the bare minimum on keto and carnivore
Mhm.
state. So that's really important for people to also know why they're flatlining, where they're with their moods, why they're having cravings,
Yeah.
why they're binging out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't you need the insulin? You need an insulin pulse for the conversion of thyroid hormone as well
Yes,
into the active T3. So that's the other piece of the puzzle there.
exactly. And that happens
Um,
inside the cells. So blood tests can tell you that, right?
mhm.
So you could look
Yeah.
at your blood test and it's showing normal thyroid function, but it's not telling you what's happening inside your cells. You need that insulin spike to activate the enzyme that converts T4 into the active form of the thyroid hormone, which is T3. And so you're still suffering from low fatigue, from a lot of fatigue, low energy. You're still suffering from hypothyroid symptoms, and you don't know it's hypothyroidism because your blood tests are not showing it. Because there's no test that we can go inside your cells to see that conversion.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that's conveniently left out in some places, I think.
It's yeah, it is I understand a few like a year ago not talking about this, but in light of all of the recent cases and just we've had
Hmm.
enough people on those diets now, especially working one-on-one with people for enough
Hmm.
time that the data is now in. So what's wild to me is choosing to completely discredit all of these cases and just telling people you're just
Hmm.
not doing it right. You know, even when we did our part one interview, we were talking about vitamin A. What was you were talking about C. difficile, right? And somebody mentioned that it's probably because you're not ingesting enough vitamin A, and that's why like you're not doing carnivore right. And I know you, and I know how meticulous you are, and the type A that like we do things right. We're on top of our
Hmm.
micronutrients and all that kind of stuff. And so, if somebody like you still needs to do carnivore right, imagine what they're telling to everybody else who's not like in the medical field, in nutrition, you know, working with this stuff
Hmm.
day in and day out.
Yeah, yeah, for me, the vitamin A thing just that's not what the problem was with my microbiome. So the fact if you deplete your butyrate producing gut microbiota, the key players that you need to maintain a robust gut barrier, mucus layer, all the defenses of the gut, then that's when other pathogenic bacteria can then take over. And my results show that very clearly because the results I had just about 6 weeks ago, I forget exactly when it was, but within 4 weeks of basically reintroducing plant foods, polyphenols, all the good stuff, fiber to support my butyrate producing gut bacteria. and my dysbiosis was way down. My calprotectin was normal. There was no blood in the sample, and
Wow.
there was no C. diff, no toxin A, no toxin B. And I was starting. I'd gone a long way to replenish the good bacteria, although they're still not quite where I want them to be. But that was just within a month. So.
Yeah.
That just speaks to me what I already know from the research literature, which is you need to nourish and feed the good gut bacteria so that you don't have pathogenic ones taking over.
Exactly. And the good gut bacteria, when you have it in enough amounts and optimal amounts, they create natural antibiotics that keeps the other bad strains of bacteria in check. It's so much better than
Mhm.
having to rely on taking the drugs and the antibiotics to regulate your microbiome. Why not just boost your microbial health so that it does the work in a natural way, in a much more powerful way? I was just looking at a GI map test from one of my clients yesterday, which is like one of the best, gut testing and functional
Mhm.
medicine that we do. It's called the
Yeah.
GI map, similar to a GI effects, a little bit similar. And same thing, it's like the whole biomass is low because the metabolism, as it slows down when you're going on these restrictive diets, you can also see it in the probiotics. It's not that we have an overgrowth, we actually don't have enough. In that particular case, we
Mhm.
just don't have enough of all the bacteria. It's because of a history of restrictive dieting, paleo, fasting, keto, carnivore. You do that long enough, you slow down your metabolism, your thyroid is shot, you're literally starving your probiotics.
Mhm.
you know? And so this is why when
Yeah.
people go back to reintroducing carbs and it's like, oh, I feel miserable because I just started eating carbs and I'm not expecting it to feel as amazing. It's because you don't just starve your microbiome and then immediately give it all the carbs the next day and expect to be able to digest this food. You need to slowly retrain your gut to come back to life. It's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
having an injury and your leg is in a cast and your muscles have atrophied. You can go the next day and train with the same and be able to lift the same amount of weight that you were able to lift before you put that cast around your leg. You need to slowly, gradually give it just the right intensity of training, but it happens rather quickly it really happens so much faster than like when people say, oh, keto carnivore takes years to adapt. It's like, no, no.
No.
Anything that takes
No.
years to adapt is not the right thing. It shouldn't take nearly that long. Like literally just a few weeks, very quickly. And just I don't know if we talked about this or not. The Crohn's patient that I'm working with, he had Crohn's from a very young age in his teenage years, and then worked with a functional medicine for 7 years, improved a little bit, and then did Lion Diet to try, there's beef, salt, and water to try and really optimize, given all of the amazing benefits we hear about. No benefits on the Lion Diet. Beef, salt, and water, nothing else. And on top of that, energy tanked, fatigue, all that kind of stuff. And so, literally, in just 3 or 4 weeks of working together, because I introduced carbs slowly, plus the workouts, he had ice cream
Mhm.
for Christmas without any issues. And I mean, ice cream is one of like the things that you would normally introduce in the latter stages. Like I would
Mhm.
not start somebody there. But still, he was in shock. It's like, how is that even possible? And it's like
Mhm.
because we are working out and you're increasing your VO2 max, the volume of oxygen consumed, meaning your cardiovascular fitness is getting better. You're able to
Mhm.
run faster, longer, and that the VO2 max is a far, far more powerful indicator for microbiome diversity and health. It's going to very quickly boost your microbiome, more so than any diet and more so than even your body weight and your BMI. And so that's the reasoning why we see such fast progress. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. If you need help and support learning how to bring your metabolism and your thyroid function back to life, if you need help understanding how to leverage the power of carbohydrates to actually achieve far higher levels of health and performance that keto and carnivore diets could never even dream of achieving, even at their highest levels, then feel free to check out my coaching packages at drsarahzaldivar.com/coaching. And if you use code New Year, you can get 50% off all my coaching packages within the next 48 hours. Make sure you look into the ones that have unlimited email support, like the Fit Optimized package and the premium packages. Those, especially the Fit Optimized package, I think might be my most popular one because it goes over for 3 months. So I see you weekly for 30 minutes and you have unlimited email support and you have unlimited meal plan adjustments and exercise plan adjustments and supplement recommendations, everything that can fit your budget if you need it or if you are willing to do that. So check them all out. And also make sure you're signed up to my newsletter at drsarahzaldivar.com/newsletter so you stay up to date on all of my research and all of the new things that we are discovering and all of the cutting edge tools at our disposal to help you not only be the healthiest you've ever been, but also the best performing you've ever been. More energy, more income, more productivity, leaner body, more muscle mass, the organ of longevity. I hope you start thinking more about building and getting stronger as opposed to restricting and getting weaker and weaker over time. Now back to the podcast.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a shame you don't hear that advice in the standard care, isn't it?
You can't patent exercise, right? It's not like a biologic
No.
that has a patent on it where they can make tons of money. So it's like, and most people end up doing this probiotic and that binder and this, that. It's like, and yeah, and I'm not saying they're not helpful. That's great. And we should know how to use them and when and in what dosage. That's all fantastic. Great. But it's like 5% of the benefit that you're going to get. It's not going to stick unless you're also doing the work, especially with cardio. In terms of gut health, is cardio just infinitely more powerful than even strength training. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing because I always think about, so I tend to think of health from two different streams, either mitochondria, but also gut health, because I think those two are just so important. But mitochondria control the gut barrier and they talk with the microbiome and they love movement and exercise and, especially outdoors if somebody can do that. But, there's just so many other levers you can pull to improve mitochondrial function that doesn't mean necessarily diet. And
Yeah.
I
They're
don't know,
far more
it's just a shame
powerful.
that diet seems to be the main, yeah, it's a shame that diet seems to be the main thing that gets spoken about and gets airtime.
Right, right. It's maybe because people prefer to just like not have to move and instead just restrict and eat less, but it always ends up being the longer road taken because eventually they're all gonna come to the realization that they're just slowing their metabolism, which means baseline dopamine, serotonin is dropping. And you might see some benefits when you do ketosis, keto or carnivore. You might see some benefits, of course, for some people where they lose weight and then they get hooked. But then once they plateau, that's where they are stuck there for such a long period of time because it's hard to convince them that it is what they did in the beginning that got them the benefits and got them the weight loss. That state, that ketosis state, is what's keeping them in a plateau right now because metabolism just slowed down. And so now they eat a little bit more than what they were eating to lose weight, or even what they were eating to lose weight. Now they're gaining weight on that. And so it's just, why drag things? Why not just focus on the root cause? Speed up the metabolism, move. That's going to increase mitochondrial health, quality, and quantity infinitely more than any
Yeah.
state of
Yeah.
ketosis.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Because movement, exercise, your mitochondria produce more melatonin as a master antioxidant. The gut should have hundreds, like 400 times the amount of melatonin as some other parts of the body. And indoor living, being sedentary, that just depletes all of the melatonin, as does, non-native EMF and other toxins within the environment. So like if you are moving and exercising, then you're just you're essentially working out your mitochondria as well, and they're getting stronger, and in turn, they're just going to be supporting your gut health
Yeah.
and your overall health.
Gut motility. Gut motility comes to a
Yep.
standstill. Keto, and then worse, carnivore, even worse, right? And movement is the number one thing that's going to increase your
Mhm.
gut motility. I mean everything. Yeah, gut health is,
Well,
is is one of the biggest things that goes down fast.
I don't know what you think, but I partly wonder, I still think carnivore for a certain period of time can be therapeutic for some people. But I wonder if some of the key names out there are people who just work out a lot anyway, and whether they've kind of managed to compensate in other ways for a diet that I just don't personally think is optimal. I
I
don't
think
know
that's
what
what
you.
happened with me. I think because I worked out,
Mhm.
I lasted longer than what I should have lasted on carnivore, before that keto. It allowed me to maintain more resilience against the stress state of the being
Yeah.
in ketosis for so long, right? Because stress state meaning cortisol, right? And then movement and
Mhm.
working out raises basically dopamine and serotonin, which are the anti-stress molecules. And so that kind of buffered some of the stress state that I was putting my body on. So I think that's why I managed to last as long on those kinds of diets. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So you were
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about why I lasted so long. So yeah,
Yeah, try
I
not to
feel the
think about
same.
it. It's so
Mhm.
once you start reintroducing carbs the right way, doing it in a smart fashion, knowing which foods to start, what is the progression, what's the timeline, once you know how to do those things, and very like almost immediately you start seeing all of the benefits. Your mental health shoots up, you start losing weight. If you were in a
Mhm.
plateau, you have energy, you're talking more, you want to talk more, you want to socialize, you have more just will to do things, and motivation, productivity goes up, income goes up. Once all those things start to happen, you're gonna get really mad at yourself. I know we're both we're still mad at ourselves. There's definitely an anger phase that you have to go through,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, because yes, like how I don't ever want to put myself in a situation where I get sucked into something and not see the red flags and be
Mhm.
inflexible for so long.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying not to. I don't want to name any names, but it really annoys me when I hear men talking about women's health and how, like, one example being menopause isn't a deficiency of having carbohydrate, and why would women suddenly need to introduce carbs in menopause? And I just think, are you qualified to really talk about that? Because there's some really very good biological reasons as to why somebody in a chronically low thyroid, low leptin state might well need to introduce carbs, especially with lots of hormonal changes going on, and especially if they're not detoxing some of the more toxic metabolites of each estrogen that can build up and recirculate. There's so much nuance involved that seems to get oversimplified.
Yeah. The detox part
Yeah.
is very important. Fiber and
Mhm.
psyllium husk, for example, and just all fiber in general is going to help you detox microplastics, which are everywhere in your drinking
Mhm.
water,
Oh yeah.
and it's all over in the environment. There's no escaping it, unfortunately, in this day and age. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, the detox coming to a standstill is another major contributor to why people are struggling with all kinds of symptoms: skin, mental health, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we
Oh
need
yeah,
more female voices for sure.
it's so common. I was just gonna say I saw somebody the other day with a mental health complaint and like their skin was terrible. So you could tell just instantly looking at them, they've got a major gut issue going on and I was just going to say that's something I come across really frequently, just people with mental health complaints. But there are other outward signs as to them having a gut dysbiosis, and there's the whole gut brain connection and the gut skin connection, and that's why I always think mitochondria and gut because the two are just so important.
And also let's tell people what leptin is, what leptin does, because I know sometimes we just assume that everybody knows, but it's a good thing to kind of refresh everybody's memory. Why is it important to not have chronically low leptin?
Yeah, so it's a hormone produced by our fat cells, but it's not just a hunger hormone. Lots of people think about it in that way, um, because it communicates with our brain, and so it docks in our brain, or it should overnight. If you've got proper, healthy light environment and you're not tanking your melatonin at night because of artificial light in the evenings, hence why I'm wearing these But it's a master regulator of energy in the body, and your brain needs to be able to read leptin. You know, it's like a barcode, or it gives your brain information about how much energy you have stored on their body. And probably most of society has a problem with having high leptin and leptin resistance, which happens before insulin resistance, where their brain's just not able to read that signal or the leptin's not able to dock. However, I know some other very experienced clinicians within this specific area who've been working with people who've come through keto or carnivore long term, and what they've been seeing, what I've been seeing as well is, and what I experienced in my own health was that there's a risk of ending up in a very low leptin state because carbohydrate is the macronutrient that stimulates leptin production the most in the body. And so if you're never having any carbs, you're not going to be stimulating leptin. And men can get away with lower levels of leptin generally than women can. And I think this is also part of the reason why we're seeing more females in the community who are coming out and coming off longer term ketogenic or carnivore diets because they've run into difficulties. Possibly also because leptin communicates with the thyroid as well and
Uh-huh.
the reproductive hormones. So there's just so many different connections in the body, but there's a sweet spot for leptin. So it's like a Goldilocks level that you need, and not too high, not too low, somewhere in the middle. And carbohydrate is a piece of the puzzle for a lot of people to maintain that proper signaling that should be happening.
Yep.
And I think I said on the last time we recorded, there are studies showing that low leptin states predispose to depression and major mental illness, never mind a whole host of other physical health conditions. So, yeah, it's not, I just think it's very reductionist, the thinking that everybody has leptin resistance and insulin resistance, and we must therefore lower carbohydrate when actually there's many other factors that could be driving the
Yep.
insulin resistance or the leptin resistance in the first place.
Yep, yep, exactly. You want those leptin spikes, and you want to not trash your leptin because leptin is the appetite suppression hormone. So if you always have very low leptin, you don't have enough appetite suppression. This is where you go into volume eating to try and feel something, get some dopamine hit, some
Mm,
feeling of feeling alive. And this is why a lot of people are not losing weight on carnivore. They think they're doing it, oh, it's an easy way to lose weight. It's so simple, right? But then you trash your leptin, and now you're always feeling like you're missing something. It's real, it's biological, it's your hormones being shot. That's not the state we want to be in. Somebody commented
mhm.
on part one of our interview, and they said something about like, well, what are your thoughts on people who are improving their mental health on keto and carnivore, and curing or at least putting into remission all kinds of stuff. And I do want to mention before your answer is also that I've had a lot of people that had amazing success stories on my YouTube channel. You can go watch those interviews, like rheumatoid
Mhm.
arthritis, completely gone with the symptoms. And then when I reconnect with those people, and actually they are coming to me, sending me their DMs after they're seeing the new content that I'm putting out on
Yeah.
reintroducing carbs. And it's like, yeah, I had to reintroduce carbs even though these people had autoimmune conditions, and it was like the success story that carnivore eliminated
Mhm.
that. But it was just because it was a short term
Yeah.
result, and eventually the other
Yeah.
conditions start to crop up.
Yeah. Yeah, that would mirror what I've seen as well. So I've seen um probably more people with major mental illness who are able to come out of severe episodes using a ketogenic diet or carnivore for some of them. But then does that mean that it's sustained long term? It doesn't necessarily. And it just comes back to everything that we've been talking about so far, which is if you really tank your thyroid or your leptin is a mess because it's chronically low, because you've been doing that for too long, then that in itself just causes dysregulation at the level of the brain. Never mind anywhere else in the body, but the gut as well, because of the whole thyroid gut interaction. And
Yeah,
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 it's you want a strategy that's going to keep you well and give you optimal health, don't you, for as long as possible. And I'm not saying at all that these approaches can't get somebody out of a really dire place, but then there's also nuance that's very important about longer term to try and keep those symptoms at bay and never have to deal with them again.
Exactly. That's exactly how I work with my clients. I'm like, okay, fine. We can use it to kind of put symptoms at bay very quickly, and also identify
Hmm.
any food sensitivities, drop inflammation very quickly. You're going to feel great. But
Yeah.
the clock starts ticking. And that's like from the moment I put them on carnivore, let's say, I start digging and looking into, okay, which ones are the food sensitivities? Are all the foods your food sensitivities, or is it just like some that you thought were now that meant that all plant foods are bad for you? It could have just been just like 5 foods, maybe 4. So once we identify
Hmm.
those, that's all we need. Or if you have insulin resistance, great. We can get very quick resolution of the insulin resistance. But then again, we have to start strengthening the body, adding muscle so I can reintroduce carbs. Because if you just rely on carnivore for the reversal of insulin resistance, we know what's going to happen. Your blood sugar is going to start to crop up. HbA1c starts to crop up. The thyroid tanks, baseline cortisol goes up. Now we have more inflammation.
Hmm.
Insulin resistance comes back. So we need to know what we're
Yeah.
heading towards, right? It's like a band-aid, and it's fine to use that sometimes when we need it. But just know that the moment you start, that's when you also are at a position to plan a good protocol to heal all the root causes so that we can, as
Hmm.
soon as possible, reintroduce carbs and still maintain those benefits and then improve your health so that you can thrive way more than any amount of ketosis can ever achieve. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important message because I've also had a lot of people contact me, and I've known people over the last few years where keto or carnivore just hasn't gotten them the improvement that they've wanted, or they just haven't been able to, and then they spend a long time questioning why are they different? Everybody else seems to be getting amazing results. Why doesn't it work for me? What, am I doing it wrong? And we touched on it the last time, but it's really important for those people to hear that it's not the only answer, and it might very well become part of the problem longer term.
Exactly. Resolution of SIBO, candida, that also helps kind of because
Mhm.
when you're starving your probiotics, you're also starving the bad bacteria, and that gives people a lot of benefit in the early stages of carnivore, right? But again,
Yeah.
over time, you're also starving the good stuff. It's like taking an antibiotic. You're killing off everything. You might cure the overgrowth of something, but you're also destroying the good stuff. So eventually, now you're more vulnerable to picking up worse strains and not being able to keep the worse strains in check because you've also starved your probiotics, the good ones that have natural antibiotics that keep everything else in check. So that's where,
Yeah.
the only way through is out. There's no hack, there's no shortcut, there's no miracle. There are basics that we know how to do those things. And sometimes, of course, I was one of those people who took that shortcut. Oh, carnivore is so amazing, right? Yeah, it is until it isn't, because
Mhm.
the gut health, the hormonal health, all those things, we have to keep an eye on them and making sure that we know how to control them and keep them optimized.
Yep. Agreed. I've
Love
got
that.
nothing else to add to that. Just I agree.
Love that.
Yeah.
You were talking the other day, yeah, I think yesterday, you were sharing a story on your Instagram stories about
Oh,
the 40-year carnivore, 40
oh yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And yeah, tell us more about that person.
So, so yeah, I have a client who has been working with me for a little while, and she has been carnivore for 40 years, so 4 decades, with a number of different autoimmune diagnoses, and has managed to keep a lot of those symptoms at bay, but came to me for other reasons, so still had some other grumbling health issues. And thankfully, she's been open to a lot of what we've been discussing recently and what I've been sort of researching more myself and my own personal health journey. But she's started reintroducing some plant foods, doing local, seasonal, and getting some carbs back into her diet. And that's after 40 years. And yeah, I was just so excited for her because I spoke to her earlier this week and she was telling me that her energy levels are just nothing like what she's known for years and years. And she actually said to me that she suspects she's just ended up living with a bit of a low energy state without fully realizing it because she'd had this lifestyle for so long, and there'd been good reasons why she'd started it, and there were other family members that had to use carnivore or keto for other reasons, such as epilepsy. But it was just, I can't, it just filled me with so much joy to hear from somebody that they were really enjoying food again. This is somebody who really struggled with all the fat that they had to eat on carnivore and really, and when I say struggled, I mean really struggled. Like it just wasn't pleasant. To the point where they're probably sometimes having to force themselves to eat fat. Just not an optimal way of living or existing. And so it's just lovely to hear that somebody's got a bit more joy back in their life and energy, and also sleep has improved. There've been some other reasons why sleep has improved, but we did speculate whether carbs are part of that equation as well as some other strategies. So
I love that. Yeah,
yeah,
you're never getting healthier if your energy is tanking over time. That's not a good
no.
omen for what's about to come, you know? And
Mhm.
you see that with long-term carnivores that eventually they start having all of the symptoms that carnivore actually eliminated in the beginning. Now they come back because you weaken the body over time. You starve your probiotics, your hormones are shot over time. What do you think is going to happen to your immune system? What do you think is going to happen to the resiliency of your body? Your leaky gut starts to happen all over again. So now what are you going to do, right? Now you've weakened everything. Yeah.
I'd really love to see some studies on the microbiomes of long-term carnivores because I
I'm
don't think there's
seeing.
much out there.
I'm seeing with my clients,
Okay.
there's the
Okay.
starvation of the biomass goes down on the GI maps. Calprotectin goes up.
Hmm.
SIGA, Secretary
Yeah.
IgA, that
Yeah, yeah.
it thins out, it goes down, and so its efficiency, effectiveness drops. Um, Leaky gut is not really maybe at some point you don't see the test in the beginning where it's getting better, but eventually comes back. You might feel better,
Okay.
but then you do it long enough, and I was like, how can I still have leaky gut?
Mm.
Stress, the
Yeah.
cortisol.
Yeah, yeah.
You are in it's the starvation state of being. You don't want
Hmm.
to live there. That's not optimal. That's not the optimal human diet.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
it's fasting mimicking, isn't it? So it absolutely is a starvation energy mode to be
exactly.
in. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly, exactly. So these are fantastic topics. We talked about gut health a lot. We talked about leptin. We don't want leptin to go down, thyroid function, and how all of those things actually increase insulin resistance over time. This is why people are plateauing. So why people are losing their energy, their will to live, losing hair, losing
Yeah.
eyelashes, like hypothyroidism, which
Hmm.
also
Oh,
means, yeah.
sorry, I was going to say to you, my dry skin that I developed as part of the low thyroid picture has finally gone away this week, and that's 2 months after upregulating all the thyroid signaling with some carbs again in my diet.
Yes.
So I was thinking, it was on my legs. I just developed dry skin that I've never ever had in my whole life, and I've had that for a few years now on carnivore. And anyway, I noticed it last night, and I thought, oh, I need to tell Sarah this has got better. That's a clear
Every
sign.
day. I wake up every day and I'm like, I have glass skin. I'm 38, never did any Botox. I was starting to think of doing Botox because I was still doing carnivore, like in the beginning of
Mhm.
2025. I'm like, maybe it's time, I'm 38. Like, what am
Oh,
I, what am
no,
I trying
don't
to
do
prove
it.
here? Just get some Botox, you know? And every day I wake up and I'm in shock. I'm like, I'm getting glass skin. Just like when there was a time when I used retinol, it gave me that same glassy skin, like tight, plump,
Okay.
no fine lines. I'm like, how is this even humanly possible? Given that I'm eating pasta, rice,
How are
sourdough
you?
bread,
Yeah.
everything, chocolate hazelnut spread, jam and butter. beans and legumes. I mean, everything, all the fuel, right? And of course, now I
Hmm.
have to do all those things because I keep speeding up my metabolism. And so to be able to hang on to keep up with my metabolism, which is running at
Hmm.
3,200 calories at 5 feet tall, which is insane.
I know, it's
Oh,
crazy.
oh my God. 2025 is like the best year ever. It was the best year for me, I swear. And I'm like, how am I the carbs plus I think it's both the carbs for me and the cardio and the strength training because with strength training you're sending a muscle protein synthesis signal, right? And collagen is
Hmm. Hmm.
protein, and so when you're
Hmm.
constantly telling the body to increase its muscle protein synthesis, it's also increasing its collagen production, right? And so I think it's everything. It's the strength training. I think it's the cardio. I think the cardio is when I really got to a good level with my cardio is when it was like night and day improvement, like and getting this glassy skin. I'm I'm
Hmm.
I'm in awe. I don't know. Somebody needs to study this. Somebody needs to do like a randomized control trial and put people on the workouts and proper know how to use the power carbs, when to use them, and all that kind of stuff, and really look at how much of an effect it does on the skin because
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I should do some. Maybe there are studies already. I should probably do some research on that and like post a YouTube video on that. I'm sure I can find some data there.
Yeah, I haven't actually. I don't know that I've looked. I maybe had a quick look, but I told you already that I've had skin age reversal effects just in the last 6 weeks of adding carbs back in. That's
I
been
remember
noticeable
the
to
voice
me.
note.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Oh,
oh
the
my
voice
God,
message.
you will not believe that. I was like, I know. It's happening to me too. It's amazing.
Wild, yeah. But don't ever do Botox. There's an Instagram account and I can't remember the name of it, but they post all the horror stories of people who've had Botox. So I'll send you the link if I can find it.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I
Why?
think
Like, like,
yeah, it's
like the
not
I know
ideal.
I've heard of some things like the droopy eyelid. If they don't do it
Mm,
right for some people, sometimes that happens. Yeah, I'm trying as much as possible to never ever have to touch Botox because within like the next 5 years, there's a company called Jeune, Jeune. Jeune is really a French word that means youth. And so
hmm.
it's a subsidiary. It's like it branched off from the bigger company that is doing those gene therapies for restoring collagen in certain diseases there where they don't have the gene or the gene is faulty that makes enough collagen. Um, and so they made another company out of it, and they named it differently, called Gen. And they're running the trials. I think they're done with phase 2, so about to hit phase 3 with humans. Where, no, actually, sorry, they're already doing it in humans. So they're done with phase 2, and it should be on the market. It's just literally a cream. It's a gel that has the gene
All
that
right.
helps you boost collagen, and especially because you can't do the Botox under your eyes and the décolletage here. You don't, it's
Okay.
as you get older, you start seeing more wrinkles there as well, and so they're targeting their studies on those areas because there's no competition. There's nothing else that can compete with that product,
Okay.
and it's going to be rolled out in like maybe by I would I would say 4 years now because I've heard about this a long time ago and I keep checking on their updates on their website. So it's probably in 4 years now it should be rolled out. So that's the plan. Never do Botox. Just go and
That's
get
what you're following.
the yeah, exactly, the gene therapy cream, and you can go on their website and look at the studies and look at the papers, and they have the pictures, and you can see the improvement. It's amazing, because that's real. That's like regenerative medicine. You're just helping the body
Yeah.
reverse the aging process as opposed to injecting a toxin that if you do that, what's going to happen to your muscles? I mean, I'm an exercise physiologist, right? And so I'm teaching people how to strengthen the muscles. How do you strengthen a muscle? You activate it. So if you inject a
Hmm.
toxin that paralyzes the muscle, now you're relying on it
Hmm.
for life because now you have like 3 to 6 months with no activity here. If you don't keep doing the Botox, then you have more droopiness, right? So yes, that's the
Yeah.
goal. Never ever have to get sucked into that. Hopefully, let's see if I can pull it off.
Yeah. I wouldn't go near that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, this was amazing. I hope everybody got something out of this little chat that we did. Is there anything else that's on your mind or anything else you want to leave our audience with or something important we haven't touched upon?
No, not that I can think of. I'm just thinking I'm sure there'll be a lot more that comes in the next like even 3 or 4 months, just
I
in
feel
terms of
like
further
sooner.
improvements. But oh
I
yeah,
feel
maybe. Yeah,
every week
back
or
on
two I
next
get a
week.
voicemail. I
I
love it.
know.
I know because it's like every system in our bodies and in our clients, you're just seeing so much improvement so quickly. It's like it's so exciting, you know, you want to share that with everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's also I've just been spending endless hours diving down new rabbit holes in terms of mitochondrial health and supporting energy production that just was left out of the whole equation and the whole low carb world. So anyway, yes, there will be more things to discuss, I'm sure. But yeah, it would be good to touch base again with further improvements.
Love that. And we'll make sure if we get a lot of comments and questions on those things, maybe we'll do it even sooner to ensure that we're, um, very clear on what we're doing here. We're not telling people to just go back and have deep fried Oreos and it's okay and it's not a second
Oh no.
it's not that, you know.
No.
Yeah, so people are really in need of this information, especially at the beginning of the new year. Hopefully everybody's motivation is at an all-time high now to really do things right this time without the rebound, without spinning your wheels. Just
Yeah, yeah.
boost the metabolism. Yeah.
Yeah, and just yeah, stay away from the seed oils and the linoleic acid because I think that's why a lot of people get improvement when they go to more whole food diets, be it keto or carnivore, because those seed oils, linoleic acid, it's terrible for your brain health as well and your gut health, everything. So yeah, insulin resistance, you name it.
Perfect. Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. All righty. Where can people find you, Dr. Brown, and sign up to your newsletter and work with you and connect with you?
Yeah, my website's drrachelsbrown.com, so people can watch a masterclass that I have there and get on the mailing list, the newsletter, or Instagram. I've got a few links on there, Dr. Rachel Sarah Brown.
Yes, I love your
That's where I can be
newsletter. I
found.
know I always tell you that your newsletter, you have to give me
Oh,
tips.
thank you.
It's always the content and also the way that you relay it, is really it's a pleasure to read it. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Thank you. I had no
Thank
idea you were
you.
reading it until you said that the other day, so thank
I
you.
No, it's great. And trust, I try not to because I'm very busy, but I can't help it. It's very, very interesting stuff. So thank you for that.
Oh,
And I will make sure
oh,
I
thank
post
you.
your links in the description box below so people can find you
Thank you.
easily and connect with you. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Brown. Happy New Year and Happy New Year to
Happy
everybody.
New Year.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And yeah, give us your comments, questions. If you want us to do a round three very soon, let us know. And if you like this kind of content, make sure you share it with friends or family members that are preparing to do the carnivore challenge. Don't do it unless you really, really have like, it's a very narrow segment of the population that might need to do it for a short period of time. So prevent them from going down that rabbit hole, unfortunately, that might have way more negative effects than positives. And let's just install the right habits. Let's just stop wasting time and just looking for the next big thing. So, yeah, share it. Also, give this YouTube video a like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Brown, and I will see you in the next one.